You're on.
Good evening, everyone. Go ahead and start the meeting tonight. Thank you for all coming. Our first item on the agenda is approving the minutes held from February 10th.
I make a motion we approve those minutes.
Motion made second by Mr. Borman. Thank you all.
You got March 4th meeting, budget meeting there as well.
You do what?
You have minutes for the March 4th budget meeting as well.
Okay.
So you got two sets of meeting minutes.
Okay, so we'd like to go ahead and consider approving the March 4th meetings also.
Make a motion we approve that.
Good. Second by Mr. Borman again. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Good. All in favor? Thank you. Next one, dedication of town report.
Okay, I sent you all an email list of everybody who's passed away in the town of Oakland. And for you to make that decision, I don't know if you've had a chance to look it over, but if you haven't, I'd like to have you do that no later by the last meeting of this month, which is the 24th. If you have, and you've got some recommendations, then we certainly can talk about that. I'll let you,
Mr. Knight?
Yeah, I looked over the list when Gary sent it to us a few weeks ago, and there really are a lot of wonderful people who were, many of who I knew. But to narrow it down a little bit, and I can't narrow it down beyond three. To narrow it down a little bit, I look at people who have previously been involved in the community and in fact had been members of this council. And those three people are Bud King, Will Larson, and Byron Rigby. So that's as far as I was able to weed it down. I mean, there are other deserving people on the 3 pages of deaths. So we can't pick everyone. But I can't get beyond the 3. So if you'd like to, I mean, that's my input tonight. Think about that. If you have others, fine. That's where I'm stuck.
thank you.
Anybody else? Thoughts? Consideration? So you want it? Go ahead, Gary.
Well, maybe what we can do, if you have a name in your head, put it on a piece of paper, send it my direction. And that way it doesn't put anybody on the spot. Janet, you got any scrap paper over there? We can, go ahead.
Are you talking about choosing one tonight?
If you know in your mind who you want, then we'll do that, because I'm working on the town report right now. But I mean, if I get it too much later, then it's going to be a little bit of a problem for me.
What's too much later?
I think if I had it by the 24th of this month, I'd be all set, be the next council meeting, but I can't have it much later, any later than that, because you're going to actually choose the winning bid on the town report. We're going to package this stuff up and get it out to them ASAP, because we have to have the report back here in April so that we can get it out.
You need to have a picture and a write-up of whoever.
Yeah, I got a
person is.
picture, and depending on who it is, either I'll do the write-up or find somebody to do it for a family member.
It's not really a suggestion, but it's a possibility, is that within the next 2 days, if anybody has, those 3 people are fine. I don't know, as I think about it now, I may never be ready to figure out which one of the 3. But I would just say if we had another person to add to the list by Friday, and then we promise to do an email to you at the beginning of the week with a choice out of those.
Okay, all right. I mean, I'm partial on this.
Give us that paper.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how would you like these papers?
But you know, the thing is, let me just share this thought with all of you. There is nothing wrong with us. I really don't want to do the dedication for more than one person, but there's nothing wrong for us to go and dedicate next year's report to one of them as well. You know, I know that we've got those 3 people are pretty special, and not to say that they all weren't, but I would be open for any type of creative, yes.
Are those the only people on there that served on the council?
Well, actually, the three of them didn't serve on it. Bud King is the gentleman who owns the store.
He didn't serve on council?
No, he
All
didn't.
right, that was my thought.
No,
I thought it did.
I think Larson did, right?
No,
Mr. Lassen did, and Bud King.
Larson did,
Yeah, Larson.
Byron did. King never did?
I don't know, but I bet it was that community.
I thought he did, but I wouldn't.
I'm sure.
I would.
All right, gentlemen, you get the work cut out for you.
Thank you.
We'll be sending emails, probably Friday, to ask you for your, thank you.
Next item up, the American Legion license, a special amusement.
Yep, I ran a report on them. We've had 2 calls up there. One was a door that had an alarm on it, and the other one was a health issue, so we've had no criminal activity and no problems up there to speak of.
I make a motion, we grant their liquor license and special amusement permit.
Motion made, second by Mr. Bowman, all in favor?
There are 2 permits to sign. They'll be coming down at you.
Next item, I will, signing notes and mandatory direct deposit.
Okay, I'm going to pass you some paperwork here so you can take a look at it and just pass this along. This is from Kelly. We actually have Gene Merchant here to discuss this as well with us tonight. While you're passing that out, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what's going on, and I'm going to hand it over to Kelly so she can share a little bit more detail. As we know, Kelly's been working very hard with efficiencies, and this is something that she's brought with her from her past experiences and past jobs. And this direct deposit, mandatory direct deposit, we won't be inventing the wheel on this. This is something that happens elsewhere. Having said that, Kelly, the floor is yours.
So currently we have 3 full-time employees out of 45 employees that I pay every week. They receive a paper check and the other 43 get direct deposit. There are also several monthly and quarterly payments made that we issue a paper check to. Some are councilmen and some are on-call fire department people. There's a lot of cost savings for the employer to have direct deposit. It reduces the risk of check fraud, lost or stolen checks, reduces bookkeeping. I'm reconciling 5 bank statements every month, and I'm chasing checks to, it's not so much the full-time employees, but it's the part-time people that I chase checks for to get them to cash them in a timely manner before they go stale dated. It's safe and convenient, and Maine law allows employers to mandate direct deposit for
Read the other one.
their business. Some benefits for employees, it's timely deposit of the checks, it's automatic, it's there on payday by 5 a.m. You get an email notification with a pay stub attached so that you'll have record. There's no chance of losing or misplacing checks, no need to rush to the bank. You can have the money dispersed up to 4 different accounts. There are several area businesses that have direct deposit that have mandated it. Maine General, State of Maine, RSU 18, Colby College. The town of Winslow is not mandatory at this time, but we did speak with the town manager, and they are pushing to have that eventually be mandated. Fairfield offers direct deposit as well, but does not mandate it. Waterville, due to COVID, they made all their employees go direct deposit, so now they're fully electronic. Skowhegan is not mandatory yet, but they're going to propose it in the next year during their negotiations with the union. So currently, I have 12 outstanding checks right now. I had to recently void and reissue 6 checks from June, which created an issue because it's crossing budget years, it's crossing quarterly taxes, my 941s, all that. So what we ended up doing was voiding it in payroll, but then reissuing it out of accounts payable. I called our auditor and I'm like, is this okay to do? He's like, absolutely, because it does cross budget years and quarters. So That's my spiel.
Are you gonna issue a statement on what was deposited to them, or do you do that?
Yep, so every Monday when I'm done payroll, I email the pay stubs to the system automatically does it, and it looks just like your paper pay stub. It'll say void on it, but it looks just like your paycheck that you get.
I mean, as an employee, I've been utilizing this for my paycheck now since it's been started. And it's pretty darn convenient. I mean, you know, the thing is, Thursday morning, my money's in there, I don't have to go deposit it. And if I need to go get cash, I just go to the bank and draw the cash out. I mean, that's with an ATM.
Do we suspect, I know we have very few who don't, are any of them not doing it because they don't trust it, or there's some other reason?
Well, I got Gene here, he's gonna speak to that.
And I guess the second part, are the full-time people, I'd assume, are probably the ones that would be questioning it to some extent if they did. The others, I'm guessing the council doesn't do it because we probably never thought of it. Is this going to create any issues, do you think, with the...
Well, you know, I'm gonna let Gene speak his thoughts here on this. I'm gonna ask him to, and I think you'll hear his understanding and what his perception is on it. And I think before we get into that any further, unless there's any other questions, maybe we should hear from Gene. Are you okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay. Gene?
So, it's nothing about trust more than it is, I just think there are some things, you mind if I pull this down?
You've been vaccinated twice, you're good to go.
So, I'm just, traditionally, there are things that we do day in and day out that should be done in person. For me, banking is one of them. I go to the bank weekly, sometimes twice a week. And I'd like to continue that. I know it's convenient for a lot of people to be able to do that. I haven't lost a check or asked to have one
No, you're not
done
my
in
problem
30
child.
years. So I understand the frustration with that. Maybe we could do something with the part-time people or the on-call people that don't get checks on a weekly basis, and let the people who work full-time continue to do what we do, which is do our banking in person.
Now, this is a council decision, and this is the reason why we're sitting here. So, thank you, Gene.
Yeah.
Questions, comments?
Where I work, they came up with that years ago for the same reason. I think there was some opposition from guys that when they got overtime, they didn't want their wife to know how much money they had. And it also kept a bunch of orange trucks from lining up at the bank every Friday, but they did it anyway, and it worked fine.
David?
I'm willing to secede because I'm one of those part-time employees that gets a check once a month. I like getting my check. Everything else goes in there. That is my play money. It doesn't go into an account. I take it, I cash it, it's mine.
How's the city of Augusta functioning? Are they mandatory direct deposit?
I'm not sure if it's mandatory. I mean, everybody complies with it. But, so I'm willing to go either way, but that's why I haven't signed it yet. You know, it's not mandatory. I like getting my check. It goes into my play fund, and that's how it is. If the council chooses to go that direction, then I'll have to go by.
Do we have, the people who misplace their checks, do we have chronic offenders? No names, please, but
Yes.
we do. Maybe we have 2 strikes and you're out.
Can do that.
Lose 2 checks, and the 3rd check you get in direct deposit. And then people who never lose a check, like Gene.
That's creative, Bob. That's a good idea.
And I also talked with Dave Coughlin about, you know, I guess the on-call, they used to get paid twice a year or quarterly, or, I mean, these checks too that they're losing or misplacing or not cashing are like literally 30, 40 bucks. Like they're not hundreds of dollars. So, and Dave had mentioned maybe once they reach a certain dollar amount, that we issue them a check, whether it's quarterly. I know Waterville does quarterly. or they do twice a year, but they're moving to quarterly payments for their on-call people, so.
Donna?
A potential position would be that all full-time employees would have direct deposit. All other employees would be encouraged to go with direct deposit, and if they didn't cash their checks in a timely fashion, 2 strikes, they're out, 1 strike, they're out, whatever. I just think, I know it's not tradition, and I sometimes like to do it the way we always have done it, but the COVID has taught us it's a pain in the neck to make a trip to the drive-through, put the check into those little round things, throw them up the thing, make out a deposit slip for like what we get as counselors. And part-time people, you know, it is. One thing, if you do use it for a special fund, you can always set up a second account with a bank typically that you would have whatever monies you want in that. It wouldn't go into your typical daily expense account. It would be going into a small savings account or something. So, you know, I would like to move towards this. It just seems that it's better for the system. It works better. Kelly doesn't have to spend as much time on it. And I think, you know, I'll sign up for it tomorrow because I'm one who doesn't do a direct deposit. I never even thought about it. But I think we should definitely move that way and come up with a package that would try to grandfather perhaps those who are, you know, doing it that way now and until they change. But if we can get the majority of the people and then have some sort of consequences if they don't deposit checks, and it's not a monetary, it's just the fact you can't get a paper check anymore because you're driving us crazy.
Lost too, yeah.
David?
I think Chief Coughlin could probably monitor his people a little bit better when they're in contact with them when their checks come in on the quarter or monthly. Is it possible to make it effective? Anybody hired from a certain date forward, that's automatic and everybody else behind it's grandfathered, and deal with those people? I'll succeed. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's just I like my check. Right. But we could set it so that it's mandatory for anybody hired from April 1st on or whatever, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't imagine being habitually losing your paycheck. It doesn't really make much sense, but I had to add that in there.
Even if it's $20, you know, it's $20.
Okay, gentlemen, we've got 3 pretty decent ideas.
Trust the system. They get
Where do you want to go
every
with?
goddamn day.
So,
I'm old fashioned, no way.
I guess, you know, does you want to make a proposal, or you want to just see if they can work it out? What do you want to do? Go ahead, Bob.
What if Kelly takes what we've all hashed over and come up with a plan that's kind of appeases people and yet involves grandfathering and 2 checks and you're out, and bring that back to the second meeting of the month.
Okay.
We can do
Does that
that.
make sense?
Okay.
Thank you. Gee, thank you.
Second. All in favor? Okay. Moving on to the next thing is the LED light
Okay.
update.
I've sent all of you the pamphlet that talks about Affinity, the proposal that they've done for us. So I think everybody kind of knows the direction that I'm looking at taking this, with your permission. I mean, we'll be talking about it more once I get it really screwed down. We have 2 options, in my opinion. One is to go around and change all the light bulbs, put the $60 fuse in, and hire somebody to change it all out. Light bulbs are running about $60. The fuse is about $60. There's $120, double that for the labor to go and put all this stuff together and change it. You're looking at about $240. Or you can look at these heads that are built by Affinity. This is a company out of New Hampshire. They're one of the originals. Gusta's used Affinity. Blasno's used Affinity. They've taken the time to look through it. Probably everybody around us has used it. They've got a great reputation. We've put $50,000 in you know, if it's approved by town meeting, to take care of as much of this as possible this summer, with a total bill to replace them all with the heads is $67,000. So we're gonna be able to pretty much get most of them done this summer if we go with a company like this with the heads. The advantage of the heads is you get a lower wattage bulb, which saves us electricity. If we go with a screw-in bulb, the lowest one we can get is 45 watts. If we go with the heads, we can go down to 18 watts. And that's a direct function on the cost, on how much power we're using. It's based on wattage. Now, I'm not proposing getting anything fancy. I think that if we're going to buy something like this, we get the ones that have the roll-up windows. You know, you can get them so I can sit behind my computer and adjust the light, dimness of the lights all around town. I don't think we need that. I think we put an 18-watt bulb out there. It's going to give us just as much power as some of these 250-watt collagen bulbs. So they got a lifespan of 27 years. So if you don't get a defective one, we aren't going to have to be touching these things for 27 more years. It's pretty amazing. And the light's clean. So, any questions?
Did you get other proposals besides those?
No, this is the one that I've been working with. When we get ready to do it, I will send it out. But everybody I've talked with, these guys are going to beat the snot out
There's
of
a lot of
everybody.
towns and cities in here that have gone to this.
Everybody is going with them. You know, and so they've been a good source of information for me, and they've been good to work with. So.
Tom?
Obviously, the towns and all the people that use them is impressive. And have you done any cost comparisons with the other way of doing it, where we do
It's very close. The light, it's very close. I think these were $272 a light installed with the fuse. The fuse, you're going to notice if you go through some of those, some of the prices are lower. Well, CMP just came up with the fuse part of it. This is something that just happened. Last year and the year before, these towns that changed over didn't have to put the fuse in, but now CMP is making them all do that. So when you look at the prices, you're going to see some without the fuses that are excessively low, and you're going to see some higher, and those are the ones that have been captured in this fuse part of it.
But I guess one of the options is we hire somebody to put in the bulbs ourselves.
Yeah, like I said, about $60 for the bulb, $60 for the fuse, is $120, about twice that, another $120 for the labor. So you're looking at about $240 to replace the bulbs.
How many lights are we talking?
Well, they've got 245. I've got a list of 282. So I'm not sure who's accurate on that right now. I haven't gone out there and counted every light bulb.
282.
282. But the 245 might be due to the fact of the ones that we own, the decorative ones that are on Main Street, and those are going to take bulbs.
So the difference in cost theoretically should be eaten up by the lowering of electrical usage that we have.
Right.
So as we explain to people, we can say, well, this is a long run, a cheaper option than trying to replace the bulbs and have people do it, et cetera, et cetera.
Skowhegan went with the bulb replacement, and they're wishing they'd gone with the head replacement, because it wasn't a big difference in price. $240 about compared to $272 for the whole head. And the head's a plug-and-play type deal.
So you get a whole new head and everything for that price?
No, it's not the, yeah, just the head. Yeah, that's the end of it.
I would recommend going with changing of the heads. I mean, if you change a bulb, you get in there, you're gonna find lenses broken, you're gonna have to replace lenses, or the head may be just sitting there all rusted out or something, so.
And that was another comment. The light is not so clean because you're using the old worn out reflective portion of it, you know, with these LED lights, and it's not gonna have as much reflective power as the brand new units will.
I assume they probably provide a service too of repairs and things
Well,
like that?
they don't provide it. The company that's being used mostly is a company out of Clinton, Wiswall. And they actually do most of the work for these guys here. And we've been in conversations with them about changing out bulbs, and they'll take care of all of that stuff. But I'm kind of inclined at this point to even wait on those bulbs. One of the things is we waited on CMP to clean up all these blown out bulbs for us, and they dragged it on forever. And they got them all changed, now we got bulbs out everywhere, so I don't know what happened, but I don't wanna pay somebody $150 to go change bulbs if we're gonna put these things in just a few months down the
I
road.
mean, once we put these whole units in, if Wiswell will come around and take care of them if we get a tree limb
Yeah.
that breaks one or whatever.
Yeah.
So they have a bucket truck and equipment to take care of them.
CMP's got it tied right up. They've got the select people that they're gonna do the work, you know, that's all, who we have to use.
Is there any kind of warranty on the bulbs? I know they say 27 years, but if
Not
one
like
goes out after 1 year, is there?
No, you're gonna be changing the bulb. Yeah. I had one in my office, I don't know if you stopped by and looked at it. We put it in one of the lamps to go and see how it was gonna work, and really I've looked at it, it's not any brighter than a regular light bulb.
I think we ought to do it as far as our money goes.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna, even if we go with a company like this, we'll get most of them changed out this summer. We'll have a few left over, but, I mean, we'll have $17,000 to $20,000 we'll have to spend for the next year, which is not a lot.
Do you need a vote on that, or
No, this was just an update. That's all I have.
further questions? None? Next up, manager's report.
I'm good.
Good. Going around the room. Gene, anything for that?
I appreciate you letting me come in and speak.
No, thank you for coming in. John Cox? Charlie Roger?
Yep, following up on my recommendation from March 4th from our council meeting with the Budget Advisory Committee, I again would like to ask the council to remove Mike Perkins as the chairman of the council, not necessarily removing him as chairman, but as councilman, but removing him as chairman. On February 24th, during the code enforcement presentation of the budget meeting, you can see on the video at 26 minutes, Mr. Perkins spent well over 10 minutes on mute having a conversation with a gentleman in his office. And then again on March 4th, as we progressed into the Budget Advisory Committee reviewing the budget and making our recommendations, Mr. Perkins removed himself from sight of the Budget Advisory Committee's portion of that. To me, this shows a lack of leadership and a lack of respect for other elected officials in the community. And as our council, I wish you to consider that.
With that being said, any council members want to talk? If not, then I'll speak first. In reference to that, during Zoom meetings, this is a cumbersome situation. And often when we're sitting in here, we're looking through other papers. And for me to speak to somebody else in my office, I don't believe that's unfair. I do a lot of Zoom meetings with the state repeatedly. And when we do Zoom meetings with the state, if it's a public hearing, I will turn off my view, so I'm not in the scene, because that's not for me to speak. And out of respect, that's what I do. I mute. If I have anything to say or question for anybody, I will turn my video back on, I will turn my audio back on, and I will speak. Often during meetings, people have things that they got to say to somebody else, so it's not due to a lack of respect for anybody or anyone in this town. Believe me, I have a lot of respect for everybody in this town, and I work diligently at trying to help with the town. In reference to the other night, when I stepped away, I did step away. I stepped on the other side of my desk so I wouldn't be seen, because it was not my meeting. It was not the public.
It's a council's meeting.
It was a budget advisory meeting, and we had already gone through, and so I stepped away so I would not be seen, and sat there and listened on the other side of my desk. So with that being said, if any of you would like to speak.
It was a council meeting, you voted on it tonight. It was a council meeting, not a budget advisory meeting.
And I sat right there on the council meeting. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not arguing with you. To be honest, I'm going to tell you something very honestly. I was very offended. I was very offended. And the rest of our people here should be offended too. That was not the place or the time to bring that up. This right here would be the place and the time to bring it up. To bring it up, it was a budget advisory meeting. It was a budget meeting. That's what it was. So, with that being said, I'm telling you now, I was offended. Okay? And probably the rest of us here in the council room were offended also. Because I know I've talked to others that were looking up charter events and seeing how their charter works and all that. So, That's the end of that. Anybody wish to speak?
I have no interest in changing our chairman of the budget, council committee. I think Mike's done a good job for us, and I have no interest in changing out our chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman?
Two things. One is the timing of a budget advisory meeting with a council meeting and Zoom has definitely changed the dynamics. And I guess we all look at how we handle that. I see people drinking soda, eating food. Is that appropriate? I don't know. We've never really talked or digested what should go on during a meeting when we're on Zoom. Is it a really relaxed, casual thing? Should we be dressed differently? You see commercials on TV all the time where somebody, you know, I can think of one now, the guy's standing there, he's got nice white teeth, and his uncle comes flying by in the back. Well, that's inappropriate. But we haven't had a chance to even review the whole Zoom process as a council. And to talk about the council, their wishes in regards to the chairman, I think that's something for us to, if we want to talk about it, we do it in executive session. It's a personnel issue. Now, you have, the public has the right to share those things. I guess I agree with Mike in the sense that that wasn't the best time to do it because it was really meant for working on the budget. There was no other business agenda on there. And I understand your frustration, and I'm not criticizing at all, other than the fact that that probably wasn't the time. This would have been a better time. Anything else would have been a better time. And if we do discuss it, I would think we'd do it during an executive session.
Mr. Knight?
Well, as you know, I sat there and I listened to the whole thing. I didn't see or know anything that would lead me to believe that Mr. Perkins did anything untoward to you or to anyone else. I thought bringing that, going from being upset about the way the meeting was going or the fact that you couldn't see Mike and couldn't verify that he was listening, I thought it was a stretch to go from complaining some to immediately suggesting that he be removed by the members of the council. I think that was quite a stretch. I've seen him do nothing that would lead me to even consider removing him as chairman. And I think that was a poor effort on your part.
As far as the 24th of February, I don't recall that part of it. We did our budget advisory meeting, we did our council session, and then I turned, and I didn't turn my screen off. It's no different than what Mike did. I was listening the entire time, but I was on my laptop, looking at the charter. So all I had to do was change the screen, and you would have been upset at me too, but I don't think, I mean, I was in a meeting today where everything's screened out. My screen's not on, I'm listening to the meeting that's going on, but I'm doing something else, but I'm listening the entire time. Nobody in that group is going to be offended by that. Because we're conducting business, we're doing it, I had no interaction in the meeting. So I see no reason to remove him as the chair.
Thank you. Well, the next thing up, Mr. Roderick, do you have anything tonight, sir?
No, sir, I don't.
Thank you. With that being said, we're going to move on to executive session.
No, we're done.
Nope, we're done. Okay, yeah, you said personal matters there. Okay, good. With that being said, Mr. Groda.
I'm all set.
I'm good.
I will give a 2-minute presentation, timing, on the dam committee.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
We met this Monday, and as you all know, the concern that we have right now is the lack of water. And the lake levels right now are pretty low. We don't have a good snowpack, so we're not going to get the runoff that we typically would have. So we're trying to hold back the dams as much as we can within the DEP regulations, but it could be very shallow lake water come this spring. And they're not predicting a lot of rain for the summer. Now, predictions always are questionable. But that's the biggest concern right now that the dam committee has. There are a few more repairs that are being done. I think everybody pretty much has had their budget meeting or recommendations, so the money that was proposed and asked for is being sent in as requested. So keep the dams repaired and hope for rain.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I don't have it.
Second.
I'll second that.
You didn't get this.
Oh, sorry. I gotta be feedback to that.
Okay.
Thank you, folks, have a great night.
We'll watch TV.